everyone, welcome back to Moment Photography. So today is a very exciting day for me, at least. Got this Canon R5 here, as you can see. Now I know this camera has actually been out quite a while now, so I'm not going to be saying about some dramatically new exciting feature, because obviously you're gonna know about all of these things because of all the other videos you've watched. But there is one thing that I did want to talk about which I haven't seen anywhere else and has really helped me with this camera. But I thought, since I was going to talk about that, I may as well open this box and show you what it looks like inside. Now I have cheated a little bit because I have actually already opened this, and actually I will say that it is actually my second Canon R5. So I've got a camera over here which is filming at the moment, and this camera is my Canon 5D Mark III. Now obviously I need to have this camera in the shot, so I can't have both my Canon R5s film in this video. But anyway, so I was going to open this in front of you and show you what I've got inside. So I did order a SanDisk Extreme Pro 256 gigabyte, almost said megabyte, gigabyte card. Now this is as you can see, it's a 170 megabyte per second card. Now I have got two other cards which are 64 gigabytes and they're 300 megabyte per second, so that's like the extra fast one. So that would be those would be my everyday cards, but I bought this card for if I'm doing an extended video, because I'm probably not going to be doing 4K, so HD, this should be fine for that. So I can do loads of HD videos. So this video is only HD, so sorry 4K TV owners. But anyway, so we've got our cards there. So we've got our typical instruction manual, and so this would be our data transfer cable, I think, and then we've got like a holder here, so if you wanted to make sure you don't accidentally rip out the cable out of the camera, that'll keep that secure. You've got your battery charger, obviously your power and your battery. So none of this stuff I've opened yet, but then we've got the strap in here, and then we've got our camera. Oh, squeaky. Okay. So here is the camera. So I have actually already put a battery in it, well, one that I already had. So you've got the battery here, but probably you've got another one I've put in it as well because I've got spare. Now when I first got this camera, so as I said, this is the second one, but the first one that I got, the first thing that struck me was it felt like a toy, and I actually really felt quite uncomfortable about that because this camera, the 5D Mark III, although it's smaller than a 1DX Mark II, which I also had, it feels heavier and tougher than this camera. This one, I feel like I have to be careful with it, and I will be careful with it, and I am with my cameras anyway. But yeah, it just feels quite light, and also the fact that you've got an LCD on the back here, and also this joint I'm really sort of worried about. But I don't actually really use this LCD much anyway. I tend to do almost everything through the viewfinder, and that is actually a massive bonus for me, I found. And it's a completely different camera to, well, not completely, but it's very different to my 5D Mark III and the 1DX Mark II, which I had, but in most ways for the better. So anyway, what I wanted to talk about was that I did find an issue with these buttons on the back. So with my 5D Mark III and the 1DX Mark II, all the buttons were easy to use and I could find them pretty easily, because the thing is, when you've got your camera up here, quite often you'll be using buttons while you've got your camera to your face. You're not going to always make changes and adjustments when you're looking at the camera at this sort of distance. So when you are photographing something that's happening in front of you and you want to quickly change settings and you don't want to be putting the camera away from your face and you want to do everything when the camera's still here, you want to be able to control the camera quickly and efficiently, and to get the results you want quickly, and not make any mistakes and not have any delays which make you miss a photo. So I was finding that in some occasions when I wanted to change some settings quickly and didn't want to have to move the camera away, I was actually getting some of these buttons jumbled up. So these buttons, I don't know how well you can see which camera, but they are quite flush, and it's specifically these ones are the main problem, because you've got 3 buttons together, and if you've got the time you can easily work out which one it is, but if you're trying to fumble around quickly and find the button you want, you can easily hit the wrong one, or maybe you just can't even find it very easily at all. But I found for these two at the bottom that was slightly better, because you had this groove here, so you could kind of find the groove and then you could find the button. But I still really wasn't satisfied with that, and I was like, well, what can I do? There must be something I can do. And I had a thought about this, and or I had to think about this, and I thought, right, what can I do to make this easier? Then the idea I came up with was these things. Okay, so you can buy in just like a hardware shop or a craft shop these little silicone pads. Okay, now I've also seen these online. I think actually I looked on like Amazon and eBay first rather than hardware shops, but I looked in both, and what I did was I measured the buttons here, and I looked online to try and find some of these which are the right size. Now actually, first of all, I didn't measure, I just kind of guessed, and I ended up buying these ones from B&M, I think it was, a hardware store in my town, and they're obviously, as you can see, they're far too big. So I'll still use them for something, but these ones I think I just bought because I thought it'd be useful for something else. But this was as close a size as I could get. Now the size I wanted was I think it's 5mm, but I couldn't find anywhere 5mm for some reason, so I ended up getting these 6mm ones, which are just about okay. So put these aside. So what I'm going to do is going to stick these on. Let's get rid of this bit of tape, and just going to carefully do this. Now it's good to do it now because the camera is brand new and there's not really any dirt or anything on the buttons, or no grease, so they can stick nice and well. So I'm going to put one on each button. Now I don't know how well you can see, but that little pad is fractionally bigger than the button. So what I was worried about initially was that the edge of this pad might stick to the body of the camera, and then when you're pressing the button it gets stuck. But I found with my other camera, where I've already put these little pads on, that it's worked fine. So anyway, I've got one on there, and the other benefit of these little silicone pads is because they are a clear silicone, you can actually see through them. Now okay, it's probably not essential, but it is still quite a nice thing, I think, rather than putting something more permanent on there which you can't see through. And at some point I can easily take these off if I want to, I guess, as well. And actually, since I've put them on several months ago, none of them have fallen off, so that's another good thing. And they're not very expensive anyway, so it'd be no problem just to put some more on. So okay, that's 2. There's a 3rd one there. Try and get that in the right place. Just 2 more to do. Go a bit fiddly to get it in there and get it right in the right place, because otherwise it will stick. Okay, just 1 more. These are hard to get off. Okay, so now when I'm pressing these buttons, it's much more obvious where those buttons are, and it just makes my life a whole lot easier. Now actually that one I haven't quite got in place because it was sticking a bit, but So as I say, you know, I'd prefer to have like 5mm buttons, or pads, but I couldn't find any. So I think it should be okay though, because I think on my other camera where I've done this, probably just a tiny bit of dust or something is collected around where there is a slight overlap, and that's probably stopped it from sticking now. But as these are brand new, it's still a little bit sticky, but that is working pretty well, I'd say. So so now when I'm holding this up to my face, I'll be able to find out where the buttons are. So I found that's a really useful addition to the camera. Now when I got this camera yesterday, actually, I did notice something which threw me off for a moment, and I actually wondered if the camera was broken for a while. So what it was that when I was testing out the camera, I put on a lens and then hold up to my face and go to focus. And on my existing R5, so the first one I got, when I would press focus, if it was in a dark room or a dark area, when I press focus, the whole image in the viewfinder, the electronic viewfinder, would light up, and then it would focus, and I could actually see from momentarily what was in front of me, even though it was a dark room. And it would lock on focus and I'm sorted. And then when I used this one, it didn't do that, and I was like, well, why is that? And I was like hunting around for settings, is there something I've missed? And I couldn't find it anywhere. And I don't remember how I came across it now. It might have been by accident, but it turned out that what it was that on my original R5, I had the focusing set to one shot, so the opposite of continuous focusing. And this one, I must have accidentally set it to continuous focusing. So when I press focus, it wouldn't illuminate the image. Now, it's good that I know that now, because if you're in the middle of a photography job, the last thing you want is to be scratching your head, why is my camera not performing as it should? Why is it behaving differently? So that was actually quite a good thing that it happened, because then I could think, oh, okay, I know what to do now. So now, I've set this, if I'm ever in that situation and I'm like, oh, hang on a minute, I can't get the camera to focus in these dark conditions, it's because I've got the focusing on continuous. Now, obviously I'm going to be using continuous focusing, but for that moment when I just need to focus on the dark environment, then I can easily switch it to one shot focusing, and then I'm fine. So that was that. And the other thing I wanted to mention was that in the process of finding this issue, I had actually copied all of the settings from my original Canon R5 to this one. And actually that was one of the things that really made me scratch my head about this, because I was like, well, hang on a minute, it's exactly the same camera, I've copied all of the settings across, how can there possibly be a difference? Now, the only difference I had come across was that when I first turned this camera on, after doing the firmware update, it asked me for the date, the time and the date. So okay, I put that in. So that's one thing that didn't transfer across when I copied all of the settings from the other camera, which is sort of a little bit surprising, but didn't matter. But I did think, well, why is this focusing behaving differently? So yeah, I was scratching my head about that. But on the subject of the firmware update and copying settings, an important thing to mention is that when I went to go and copy the settings from the other camera, I was like, oh, hang on a minute, how can I do this? Because on the other camera, my first camera, I'll tell you where it is. So if I just turn this on, okay. So what I went to is I went to menu, and then I scooted across to my the wrench menu, which is, it's like the yellow one. And then you've got when you first, it depends what firmware update you have, but I had on this one, I think it's 1.2 or 1.12 or something, I can't remember what it is now, but it was a 2 in the number anyway. And on the wrench setting, it only went up to 5, whereas on my my first R5 camera, it went up to 6. So I was like, that's strange. And on my first R5 camera, let's see, where is it? Under 6 is where you had the firmware version. So this is now 1.3.1, and under 5 on the wrench menu, you've got something that says save or load cam settings on card. So that's what I wanted to do with my first R5 camera, and then I went to go and load those settings onto this second R5 camera, and that menu option wasn't there. So then I realized that this was, I think it's 1.3.2, and as soon as I updated to 1.3.3, that's right, oh no, so 1.3.1, get it right in a minute, then I found that it worked and it was fine, and I could transfer all those settings across from the other camera to this one. And I tell you what, you definitely want to have that firmware update, because it's just going to save you a ton of time, because otherwise I would have had to go through every single menu manually and change every single setting and almost certainly miss something. But by doing it this way, once I'd update the firmware and then put the card in and then selected to copy the settings across, it literally took about 1 second, and then everything was there, obviously apart from that focusing issue which I discovered, but not really an issue, just I changed the setting without realizing. So anyway, that's my second R5 camera, which I'm absolutely thrilled about, because it's the first time that I've ever in the history of my business had 2 cameras that are identical to each other. Now, previous to this, so I had that 5D Mark III and I had a 1DX Mark II, both brilliant cameras but different. And when I bought the 1DX Mark II, the idea was, I can get the faster frames per second, and it's tougher and looks more professional and all these sorts of things. But realistically, I probably didn't really need the 1DX Mark II. I probably would have been just fine with 2 identical 5D Mark IIIs. Certainly would have been cheaper in a way. But now for the first time I have got 2 identical cameras. Now the only issue is that I ordered this second R5 camera. Well, actually both cameras I bought them from pennies, and this second one, when I ordered it, I didn't order it with the lens mount adapter. Okay, so obviously just got a dust cap on here at the moment, but I should have a lens mount adapter eventually. Now, the reason why I didn't order a lens mount adapter when I ordered this camera was that when I was ordering this camera from pennies, the difference between buying that adapter from pennies with this camera and buying it separately elsewhere was about £70. So I was like, well, what's the point of that? I may as well just buy it separately. So I ordered it from Amazon. But the trouble was that on Amazon it was going to take about 3 or 4 weeks to get to me, and everywhere else I looked was sold out. So I was like, well, I could either be impatient and pay the extra money and get it from pennies when I order the camera, or I can get it elsewhere. So I decided to be patient and wait. So at the moment I can't even use this camera, but at least I have one of them which I can use, but eventually I'll be able to use 2. So I'm thrilled to have it. It's going to be absolutely amazing to use identical cameras on a job. It's going to make things so much easier. I'm not going to be tripping over settings and buttons and menus and things like that. It's going to be fantastic. Now, the only thing that I will be tripping over now is that all the videos I've done thus far on this YouTube channel have been in iMovie on my Mac, and a month or 2 ago I invested into Final Cut Pro. Now, I've never used Final Cut Pro before. I have used Premiere Pro by Adobe. I think, is it Premiere Pro or Adobe Premiere? Anyway, I have used that a few times in the past, but I haven't got that now. And I've heard that Final Cut Pro is supposed to be more efficient and quicker. So I've bought that, but I'm being a little bit intimidated about starting to use it. So now I've made this video, I'm going to be having a go at that. So I've no idea how long it's going to take me to actually release this video. It depends how caught up I get with Final Cut Pro. So anyway, I hope that's been useful to you. I'm hoping that you'll give this a go and you'll find it a huge benefit to when you're trying to change those settings and you would otherwise be fumbling around with buttons. And the last thing to say is I'm so thankful for all the people who have subscribed to this channel. I think the last video I did was several months ago, and the last time I really sort of paid attention to the amount of subscribers, I had about 35 subscribers. And now that's multiplied by a factor of nearly 5. So I'm so grateful and humbled as well by all of those people who subscribe to this channel. I'm just like a tiny little channel compared to all of the other YouTubers out there. And I'd like to think that, the videos that I make, I put all my enthusiasm into them, and I'm giving you some useful information that you can use with your cameras and your photography. So thank you again for subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.